Wolfenstein Old Blood is surprisingly effective at creating a truncated version of last year's Wolfenstein The New Order. It never peaks as high or sinks as low, but it does manage to maintain the witticism, style, and clever design of its predecessor. And as a bonus, it can be enjoyed in roughly a quarter of the time. MachineGames' personality continues to be the star of the show, and some of the game's humor, particularly towards the end, is priceless. The trouble is that there's no situation where I would recommend playing Old Blood unless you've already played The New Order. By virtue of being a shorter game, Old Blood doesn't have the pendulum swings that took you from the utter despair of losing a war to the Nazis into the absurdities of a lone, chiseled American man double-fisting shotguns. Old Blood is quite good, just not remarkable in light of its origins. As shocking as the opening scene of Hotline Miami 2 is, it's obviously the result of a game living in the shadow of its predecessor. The first Hotline Miami was something wholly unique, and sadly the developers thought adding to that base alone would be enough for a sequel. More is less here, and Hotline Miami 2 not only ends up being less shocking and less thoughtful than the first game, but far more restricted in the gameplay department. The difficulty in Hotline Miami 2 is heightened in a way that the mechanics simply cannot sustain, meaning that cheap deaths are frequent. Expect to get killed by off-screen enemies a lot. The top-notch style is there, and the story has a few good moments, but as much as it tries to do more than its predecessor, it just ends up being too much. Ori and the Blind Forest is a truly impressive debut title from Moon Studios. One of its most clever design choices is a mid-game upgrade that offers players a chance to completely change their approach to locomotion. The result is a platforming game whose opening revolves around avoiding obstacles, which is typical for the genre, and a second half that's about steering straight into them. This is a sterling revelation for a discovery game filled with backtracking and collectibles. From a thematic or story angle, Ori and the Blind Forest isn't especially interesting, and how you resonate with it emotionally will depend on your tolerance for speechless critters, but it's extremely well polished in terms of playability and a lot of fun to go through overall. The Monster Hunter games give back as much as you put into them. Like previous entries, Monster Hunter 4 requires a huge upfront time investment before its idiosyncrasies even start to make sense. That being said, I've done my time. I've played hundreds of hours of the series' previous installments, and as such jumped into Part 4 head first, ready to learn whatever new systems the game had in store for me. Turns out, you get an adorable cat army and can now ride the monsters. 5 stars. Seriously though, grabbing some friends and hunting a big monster never ceases to bring absolute joy to my life. Hunting parties learn to dance around each different monster with spectacular choreography and battles that can at times last up to an hour. It's a game about skill, preparation, patience, and most of all, coordination. Monster Hunter 4 doesn't dramatically change the formula, but it's proven to me that a series I've grown accustomed to playing on a television can work just as well on a handheld device. Even when I'm being embarrassingly sent back to the village on a stretcher, the Monster Hunter series never keeps me away for long. This was our second batch shotgun critique review thingamajig. Tell us what you thought about it, or you can visit castlecouch.com for even more. Thank you all so much for listening. Keep talking about games, they're the best.